I
Especially,
truly
I
feel
mean,
like if Richard doesn't get, I mean, if he even is actively doing shit or paying attention, I feel like honestly, hand to God, I feel like if people keep participating, they keep liking and retweeting or whatever it is, uh, he's going to have to do something drastic, which I said before was jokingly sort of was an autopsy report gets released by Finland, or the OA actually moves and sells into something very public and visible. Like there's got to be something that like, hey, workers won't quit and they're not selling out. Like they got to sell out. That's literally the only thing I believe in now is he's holding OA is holding ETH, telling people to buy ETH so that they have 3 times the money when he does rotate and just sits on chain without buying his own tokens. That's the only narrative I can believe in now.
imagine if he got some kind of terminal illness. I feel like Richard would be the first one to like one clip on your head. Like,
Absolutely, bro.
he'd be like, bro, this all this money's to live longer, bro. I'm putting it into
Well, I
research.
mean, you were there during all of the early spaces. A lot of people listen to early spaces, not spaces, his streams. He talked
Yeah.
about his bipolar girlfriend, his dog dying, his mom with paranoid schizophrenia, basically how he self-raised himself as a near genius and learning logic before math. Like we've heard all the lore, so I don't want to hear
Yeah.
more lore. I just want to hear like the guy's committed, somebody stole his coins, or like this has been a big psyop. But until people sell out of their position, including the ex-wife that you commented on today, and finding other wallets. Like until they
Yeah.
are out, I don't think he will meaningfully pump the chain.
Yeah. There's a couple thousand more validators that are probably going to be going. And then there's another wallet that has about $200,000 that started selling now. So we'll see. That's directly associated with this pool, by the way. That's not like a foo mystery wallet. Like that is straight from his pool. So I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, that's 200K when the price is down this low is a lot of money. That's like what, almost $2 million or that's more than $2 million at the sacrifice price. So we'll have to see. I've
I
been
also watch like I used to. There used to be this guy named Dolomite that was such a diehard Richard fan that he blocked me like
right.
4 years ago or whatever. But now I see him like raging out, and like when I see Hexologist and shilling a Shiba Inu or something like that on some other chain, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time.
He never will, bro. Hexologist would is a man of principle. He would much rather probably just disappear forever than to ever try to pivot against Richard. I would assume, but I mean, you're right. If you see him shilling a coin from Soul, then
Who would you guys
You're
say?
gonna see a 20x the moment
yeah,
that Hexologist does it, bro.
right.
Yeah, who would you guys say is like the like people like Hexologists, right? Influencers who have been here the longest time, who have held to this chain and this chain only to a certain extent. Who would you name besides Hexologists? Just out of curiosity.
There were some very fierce, like naive, like but they disappeared like a couple of years ago. Like Valiant Brand, like he used to be like such a diehard. He would dress like Richard and make all this mock up, or Marco the Hexagon. There's like so many names of people that basically faded out. And I
Who would
think
you
that
say
only
is still
Crypto
here?
Coffee. I don't even think that Crypto Coffee is really like a representation because he shows so many things that are, he has his own courses, he has different revenue streams, he has Top Hat, he has this other stuff, and he still monetizes his Twitter and his YouTube content. So like, I don't think of him as like a real indicator, even though he makes a lot of content.
There's a couple of like pillars, I guess, in the community that are obviously financially dependent on this ecosystem still. It's just
Yeah, I
I
mean,
have to wonder, like,
for a
there's
big
no
deal. I mean,
way.
again, Hexologist is really the only indicator. Like RG3, I mean, he's made plenty of money that's on other stuff. Whether he says he doesn't promote it, he just says I don't promote it. But like he buys up the chart, he dumps on the chart on all kinds of other stuff that's not anything Richard stuff. So like, there's no real other indicator other than Hexologist as a person. That's like the final loyal and disciple that would, make a capitulation sign. Everything else is, like I said, to me at least, I can't, it's not my money that I care about. I mean, I care about my money, but I care about like, I care about my reputation is toast. Is so toast with anybody that had like cash money go into the ecosystem. If they came
Yeah, dude,
over
I'm
from,
not gonna lie. Diabolical that you told people to buy this.
Yeah, it's horrible, dude.
Real life friends, I was begging them not to, and they were like, "I don't give a what you say. I'm buying more." And I sold them like OTC for a discount, and I still feel bad about it. But I had told them like 10 times not to.
Bro, like the Hex Trust, people were feeling great that they got a discount because it dipped down to 9 cents on Hex. Like I got a fucking trust share, and I was like, oh my god. The next week it was like 6 cents, and after that, like 2 months later, it was like four. Like,
Right.
ugh.
It's only down like 95% from there. So
But Richard can talk. What was it? Who went down for 5 hours? Base. Oh, Base went down for 5 hours,
right.
and it's like, yeah, but like, there's been 9 days where Pulse was up. 9 days. Like, that's what Grok says at least. It's like, holy.
I don't even know like what base's volume looks like either, but I bet you it's retarded.
Well, they said
Like
that Grok said that the TVL started because it really is. I guess it doesn't have its own coin. It's just based on ETH, right? So you pay
right.
gas in ETH. But like it said that it launched with its TVL of basically $0.11 billion for whatever that is, $110 million in TVL. That's like kind of when it launched at, like the day one or whatever. But it's now 5 billion in TVL. So it could only really measure it as a comparable against like TVL growth. So it's like
Right.
50x in TVL.
Well, I know myself and I know a lot of other people like whenever we're moving value around, it's honestly it's in stables. If we're moving stables around, it's on base. You know what I mean? There's no reason
Yeah.
not to use base when you're just moving stables, like from exchange to exchange or whatever you're doing.
Even the hardcore, like I wouldn't even say hardcore, but the people that made the most money, load of money, and early in the days, especially at least paper money, and actually realized money too. Like Hex Toys official, he had the biggest
Yeah,
referral out of all that
yeah,
stuff, and he gave him the medallion, the Hex logo, and all that like that in London and all that stuff. Anyways, like he's been on base for a long time, and it's basically because he feels supported as a developer there, and he has like they give him money to build on base, and he's got mad like a couple of years ago at Richard and kind of just weaned out of being participating here at all.
yeah. I mean, it's easy to understand why, right? Like, I guarantee you the remaining few people that we have here, I guarantee that like 60 to 80% of them would no longer be here if they had a exit pump, like a God candle pump to get out. I guarantee you would lose at least half of this entire community overnight if they got an exit candle. So it is interesting to see. Like, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that over 50% of the community probably are here because they're trapped effectively. Um, I think of people like people that are less crafty, I are less uh I don't know the right terminology, but people like Tam Tam who have been extremely diehard dedicated to the word of Richard for the past several years. She's taken every paycheck she can. She's put in all of her money. She put in all of her retirement. She sold all of her investment properties. She continues to DCA in, and it continues to go lower and lower. And you finally saw her take like a step back and just focus on work and real life and stuff, which is probably for the better. But I'm like, man, I can't imagine she's the only one.
Yeah.
These are people who are. This isn't like us. A lot of us, like KR and my boys and trade and like we're blending up meme coins all day to get more money to buy our cores. We're not like going out and working physical jobs and putting like every ounce of our life into it. So it's I
Yeah.
can't imagine being in that position. you know
Yeah, I mean, again, I participated, I participated with real estate, like cash flow to start with. And I did, you guys seen it on chain. I did sell real estate that I feel foolish over buying the tops, close to the top at 41 cents or whatever, big chunk. But like, I met Tam Tam in person. Like I made the effort to meet her in person a couple months ago. and super sweet personality, real person, all that stuff like that. And I had to be careful about like my conversation pieces because she would ask things like, how do you feel, what do you think about it, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm like, I really
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it, I just want to be like a friend like for a moment, because
Right.
we're like kind of the same dialect in our voice, or origin stories, I guess. But yeah, I feel awful. Rich people losing their money, okay, like I feel a little kicked because that's the network element. But like people like Georgia or Tam Tam or whatever, especially when they had their real estate they sold that was their retirement for their kids.
Did you just call
They
yourself a rich guy?
No, I mean rich people around me.
I need money, bro. If you're gonna come in here and
Uh, you know what I'm saying. So I feel bad because these are, again, the same people as me. I was 60 to 80 hours a week in medicine, working two different hospitals most of my life. And only in like 2014 would I say that I was independent of all that. And going speculating in real estate and startups and software and all that. But like these are still people that the daily grind is making a decision about. Do I hedge for inflation by buying supplies for my house I'll need in 6 months or a year? Or do I like buy a cryptocurrency, with an absentee founder that talks a bunch of stuff that gets no engagement? Like, I don't know.
right,
But anyways, I feel bad about, like, I mean, I like Tam Tam, but I couldn't like in good conscience say, please buy more so that your DCA, the lower
right,
entry point stuff narrative anymore.
right. It feels immoral. It feels immoral to tell anyone to DCA. Like if someone's like, "Hey, I got an extra couple $1,000, what should I chuck it at?" I might say like, "Hey, throw it into ETH." Um, if you really want to lose it, then maybe you have a shot at throwing a couple bucks in the pulse chain. But I wouldn't. I would take it as pulling a slot machine.
If
I
I
think
tell
that's
if I
been my
tell
approach
anybody,
forever, though.
you've heard me before. If I tell anybody anything about crypto right now, it is that uh, Tom Lee probably has more like potential because he's an unproven like ETH marketing machine. Sailor's business, his
Right,
machinations of strategy and microstrategy and stretch and all that stuff. Um, and like Tom Lee's narrative, plus at least on this chain, the big bag is ETH and it sits on ETH chain. So
right,
like it just seems like if you're going to get in and you're going to say, I believe in Richard Hart, then potentially split that bag or what you would willing to buy, split it. Half an ETH and then half whatever you think is going to do something if Richard's money comes onto the chain. Like whether it
right.
buys his own
It's
coins or
true.
doesn't, just like you can get a 3x in ETH if it happens before the potential, $10 million coming across the bridge narrative. And then if money starts coming across the bridge, even if it doesn't buy shit, it just sits on the chain, it's going to move the market 10 to 20 or 50x, on the chain. So like I would just do that. Like if I would
The,
I would split my bag and say ETH and whatever you're going to do on Pulse Chain.
the part that's so painful, though, is just that there's so many tens of millions of dollars in stables and in ETH and Bitcoin sitting on chain that are just being held liquid, not in any type of lending platform, not in any kind of liquidity pool. That's just sitting idly. The second that money hits that bridge, I know 100 people off the back of my hand that get notifications. So I can't imagine the amount of front running that's going to occur anyway. So I don't even know how you even navigate that, if I'm being totally honest. As a market maker, if you're trying to be a market maker, I wouldn't really know how you navigate it, because the objective is ultimately to remove supply from market and to remove capital from market so you could reintroduce it lower. And it's like there's no way around that in Richard's position. So it really would be a pump my bags because you want to give me money type of situation. And I don't know, man. I think I think it does happen, but if you're really a Richard Hart maxi, I think if famous was right. Yeah, I'll say that. He would love that. But you know, ultimately you should just be buying ETH. If you actually believe in Richard and you believe in what he, you know, believes and what he preaches, then technically buying Ethereum is the most honest thing to that thesis of Richard's that you could be.
Yeah, and like you said, the money that does sit on chain, I don't know how much of that you guys do all the sleuthing, but still, I don't know how much of it is like outside of Richard's control kind of money.
Bro, there's
But it's
like
a lot, right?
25 or 30 million dollars is not Richard money.
Yeah,
Just sitting liquid.
and you know that's going to be PvP. The moment that something happens that's meaningful, they will buy whatever they're going to buy, and they're going to be, you know, I won't
Right.
call them whales, but they're going to be PvPing each other for the first, 12 hours to 24 hours for sure. And then that's going to cause enough buzz to where people that are outside of the chain, off of the bridge, will be like, okay, maybe I should put in 10 grand, and see if I can double it. I mean, it's just gonna be frenzy. I mean, more than the launch. It will. The safe play is up until ETH does hit 3,500, range 34, 3,500. You ain't gonna see it from Richard other than talking to other like non-crypto reply guy stuff. I just haven't seen anything else.
Then say, I really wish I got to hear a conversation between Vitalik and Richard, because I think that Richard would kiss ass. And I think that Vitalik's vision has slowly shifted into like, I don't know what the proper like framing would be, but like a monarchy. I think that Vitalik regrets giving up a lot of power over Ethereum. And I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to hear him and Richard talk, because Richard's basically set up his chain in the way that I think Vitalik ideally wishes that he did in a lot of ways.
Wasn't
And
that what Charles was saying last week or whatever? Like, I don't have any power. I don't have enough coins to
right,
have any power. I'm not centralized
right.
enough to do anything with data
It,
anymore.
it's kind of ironic, right? Everyone was chasing this ideal vision of decentralization and, you know, whatever it is, equity. And then, like I said before, I used to criticize the Tanging on Space for the same thing, where it's like you'll always have opportunists in this world who are going to be more capable, and they'll take that opportunity to manipulate and to corrupt and to control anything trying to be altruistic or decentralized. If there's money involved, you can bet there's some powerful, intelligent people figuring out a way to take power over it. And I think that's how the like monarchy power dynamic that he would need in the first place to do it. So it is just funny. And Richard does have that. So I'll give him props to that. Like, I do think that he has a better vision of what Vitalik does want in a lot of ways. The problem is that there's no serious development going on. There's not a lick of serious development going on this chain, and it sucks. I wish that there was.
Well, it's interesting. When I lived in Silicon Valley, a lot of my friends were Chinese, and they, came straight from China to be developers, or they were the relatives of those developers. And they said, that they came for the opportunity to make money, but like they didn't really feel repressed. And again, maybe this is just their bias of their own experience because they were more elite in their intellect or something, enough to get at least out, permission to leave China and come work in Silicon Valley, maybe just to harvest some secrets. I don't know. But like they would say things like, it's a benevolent dictatorship. Like, they look out for us like a tiger mom or whatever would be. Like, my government looked out for me kind of thing, whatever, right? And we would call it brainwashing and they would call us brainwashed. So it's just that kind of thing. But like you just said, if you don't have the power, like through all of human history, you've had monarchies, kings, basically telling the peasants, go fight with each other so that I can take more of those lands, and then you can be slave or servant to me on those lands instead of slave to servant to some other king. So we've always had like a centralized power thing to get things done.
Yeah. Well, so you've never heard Hex and Pulsechain people talk?
Oh yeah, I know a lot about Web3.
Yeah, you know a lot about this. Come on. I mean, the dude took $1 billion, and then he basically, leaned over and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy your bags with that $1 billion when the time's right," and then he didn't.
Whoa, And like that's all tangible assets. Does he hold them physically in his hand, or is that something that is
Oh yeah, we
completely
gave
not legal?
it to him.
Well, like,
He tornado cashed it, but it's likely still Ethereum.
No,
yeah,
he
so like
tornado
it's
cashed it and sent it to us in second sacrifice, bro. He sent it to Provex sacrifice wallets, so you can see.
whoa, how safe is that? Like there is a false sense of security. That's
No,
like okay,
it's
just
not like that. No. It's like, think of it like this. It's an abusive boyfriend or girlfriend, right? They hit you, but then the next day they come apologize. They take you out to dinner. They say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to make a habit out of taking you out and treating you right. And then they beat you every day for years. And then they take you out to dinner again.
it's called coercive control. It's similar to
But they
Stockholm syndrome.
ask you
What are we
if you'll
getting to here?
sacrifice for dinner. Like it would be awesome if you would just like help out by paying for dinner.
It's like the wigger boyfriend. Like, oh baby, yo, I love you. Can you you got dinner?
I love staying chat, but I'm bored. Bye.
But technically, he hasn't even paid for the dinner. He just hinted at it.
Well, he paid for dinner like 3 times.
Oh, I just mean like he hasn't even pumped the sack a little bit.
You know, it would be a lot easier for me to defend if he didn't do the Provex sacrifice. The Provex sacrifice was not only, I felt, a huge kick in the to like a lot of the community, but it also ended up falling through. So the few guys that did believe that this is Richard's, you know, what's the word, like comeback story, whatever. Like you guys all were too much money. It was too much to pump you guys. He's going to basically rinse all of you out of the coins. He's going to launch a new sacrifice. He's going to give you none of it, and he's going to rip it up. Like even that failed. Even that protocol was Richard's protocol was directly dependent on a web extension hosted by a different company. Like that's a real thing. Like he made a $6 million sacrifice that depended on a web extension from another company. And now they've open sourced it entirely. So you can even do that part now through them. But it's just painful, bro. I'm like that was the one thing where it showed that it's just the same playbook no matter the size. So it's like it doesn't matter if I'm a multi-billionaire, it doesn't matter if I'm raising $100,000. I'm going to run the same play.
Strategy be that if nobody has money to buy the bottom, then his rotation could make the 100x before you can get there. Like could it be that you're so broke you were in every sacrifice for cash dollars?
Yeah, but Gary, this is the scary part, bro. Is I have friends who regularly, Banos is one of them, they regularly play on other chains and they make good money. They make 5, 10, 20 grand on a shit coin. And then they put some stables over here and they wait for some retarded whale to one clip the chart down 25%. And then they get more coins. And I'm not knocking Panos or anything or saying this is what he does, but you know, a lot of those guys are going to take their huge positions now down here and they're going to wait for a 2x or a 3x. Guess what? The chain is only at, you know, 20% of sacrifice at that point that they're taking profits already. They're exiting by the time the chain's back to a quarter of sacrifice. So how do you reconcile? Like, how do you can't say like, I'm just going to push the chart down forever because eventually I can rip it up as hard as I want, because you just open up the opportunity for your real community to be replaced by swing traders that are able to predict a very predictable trade. Like Richard's money is not on our chain. It's currently off chain.
Right.
What are your thoughts? Do you think Liberty Swap is, you know, not Richard Hart still? Do we
Yeah,
still think that, Giga?
I know for a fact Liberty Swap is
no,
not Richard Hart.
it's not Richard
Okay.
Hart.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
There's people in this community, I'm not going to say who, but it's a collective.
I was gonna say I have a really good resource that told me who it is, and it makes a lot of sense. And then secondly, why would it be? You know, like what's the incentive?
What do you mean? What's your incentive?
Like why would it be Richard? Right? Like what what rationalizes the thought that it would be Richard?
The
Because
fact, you
Richard is
know,
a humble guy that likes to be not attributed for things that he does.
That's what's going to drive the revenue. So I'm not trying to say like they're the perfectly altruistic group of people, but they know what's financially beneficial, and what's financially beneficial to them is actually driving volume on this chain and creating excitement around memes.
Do you see them selling off and off chaining at all, or from their fees, or do they just basically sit on chain and accumulate?
They don't need to, bro.
No, they take it out through Peacock.
Well, think no, I don't even think they do that. Think of it this
nah.
way.
Well, you don't think those V3 walls are them?
All of the revenue that they're generating through their swaps is you selling your coins into stables and then them taking a piece of the stables. There's no need for them to unload. I don't think. I mean, they could be, don't get me wrong, they're still a business. But it would make way more sense that I would want to drive attention to my product that can live much longer than a meme coin using a meme coin rather than, you know, I don't know. I guess you could siphon out of the meme coin, but
Hey, Giga. Sorry to interrupt. I thought you were done. When it comes to the fact, because they've been made public only for what, 1 year, did your source tell you like why they've been kind of building behind the scenes, you know, for quite some time, and then only becoming public now? Wouldn't it be in their interest to, you know, come public ASAP? And why 3-4 years later?
well, what do you mean? These
'Cause
the people that are at least I know at least one or two of the people that are behind Peacock or Liberty Swap would be directly associated with a lot of hexogs that probably would leave a very bad taste in a lot of the meme guys, you know, mouth. Like I think that a lot of meme guys that are current on our chain that are not OGs would not appreciate an OG's product. I'll put it that way.
So you're saying it's not them, but then they make a deal with Liberty Swap to take over their website?
Oh, a lot of people are using that as evidence that it is them.
Yeah, I mean that just makes a lot of sense though that they would do that. Like, who would they hand it off to? There's nobody else that's doing what Liberty Swap are doing on the chain. So
Dip catcher.
Think of it like this: as GoPulse was for years the most popular tool on Pulsechain, tenfold. It had 90% of the mind share of wallet and balance checking, price checking for Pulsechain. So if you're around since the beginning, you would understand that GoPulse was like the big product on chain. Now, if I'm the new guy on the block and I'm very hot and very popular at the time, and the old most popular product that had existed, even though it had slightly faded away, was now effectively going up for sale, soft sale in a way, I think it would be in the financial interest of a company to just buy them out, right? I think that's just what happened. And even if it wasn't a buyout, or maybe it was takeover control, because they could probably say, hey, we could still generate revenue for you. You give us your brand basically, and we give you commission or whatever deal they had. I don't know, but it would make a lot of sense. I mean, GoPulse
Why
was
didn't
publicly
people?
trying to sell for years.
He did
So-
4 souls
Yo,
for $3.
so Giga, I wanted to ask you in terms of like Pulsechain's strategy going forward, like over the next 5 years, do you think just being the DeFi, you know, privacy chain is enough?
Well, the veil is lifted, the illusion is gone. There's no longer the opportunity to pretend that we are the DeFi solution to the world, and that could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't think anyone can know the answer to that. But there's not a world that exists in which any rational person would invest in this community as the DeFi community. There's other reasons to invest in this community though.
Monarch, Empire, Caesar,
Basically,
Caesar chain.
yeah, it's part of my entire idea that's, you know, Richard is actually completely instrumental to everything that exists in this ecosystem, including his community.
like I think that's my reasoning for. I mean, Liberty Swap could be an example of the fact that, you know, he's relying on the community to kind of develop the chain, and then it's truly decentralized in that manner where the community's not relying on him to develop protocols and things like that. Hence the plausible deniability of
of Liberty Swap coming along, but that was kind of where my head was at until you're saying that you've got a source to say that he's not kind of linked, but do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I can say with 99.9% certainty that Liberty Swap is not Richard Hart or any direct associate of Richard Hart. Now the question I'd ask you is what development, and just to be clear, because a lot of the PDI community likes to paint me as a Liberty Swap hater. I've actually been one of their biggest supporters and one of their first like real technical observers early on, and actually give them props a lot of times. So just with that being said, what is it exactly that Liberty Swap's done that's made this community more decentralized or handed this ecosystem more to the community?
I don't know
Not
if it's more
appreciative.
decentralized. I'm more talking about it's not Richard doing the developing anymore or his developers. It's the community, quote unquote, coming along and developing protocols. You know, building these on ramp, off ramps, and whatever they're doing.
Right, but this is this is kind of the part that's rough is that all of those protocols are 100% dependent on the bridge, and the bridge is 100% centralized. And for everyone who ever said that it's impossible to have a decentralized bridge, that's false. They're just repeating what Richard said. You can 100% have a decentralized bridge. There's a variety of ways to do it. Now, obviously, the trade off is all sorts of things, whether that's value, whether it's efficiency, like speed. There's all sorts of compromises that you have to make. But as long as Liberty Swap, for example, uses any asset from Ethereum, like USDC from Ethereum, is their main coin that they trade with on their bridge, then they are 100% dependent on that bridge, which is 100% dependent on a single EOA signature.
But I'm not really talking about decentralization in that manner. I'm more talking about just like, you know, as in the community becoming less dependent on him.
Look,
You know what I mean?
Michael, I love the idea that we have. The way I view it, I think maybe the way it's better articulated is I view us as on a road with a fork, and to the right is a decentralized world where this community can become a true DeFi ecosystem. And to make that happen, there's a lot of things that would have to occur. Basically, every single protocol that Richard's ever touched needs to find its way into some kind of DAO, and that includes the bridge. And there's every single protocol he has is controlled by a single EOA. Just to be super clear, there's a single signature that can alter every single thing on PulseChain that Richard's ever released. Now, if you want the community to become decentralized, you have those two forks where it's like, okay, Richard is either God King, and we all go that path where we say, you know, we're at the will of Richard, but Richard will lead us to victory, which is a fine approach. Or you have the decentralized world where Richard needs to begin letting up his control over these things, and he's simply taking more control of these things over time, not less.
Yeah, can that change though? You're saying that it's this one EOA that has control over these
Right.
protocols and blah, blah, blah. Can that change eventually? Can he
It could
kind of
change, right? It could,
relinquish
yeah.
control?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways, right? And now DAOs are typically just up, you know, it's just a show. Typically, you have majority control over a group or an individual anyway, with any kind of voting mechanism. But there's not even the illusion or attempt of illusion in this sense. So in my world, is if he was trying to make the approach where it was like, hey, I'm trying to make my ecosystem more decentralized or whatever, then I would imagine a world where he would at least play the game, where he'd say, okay, here's a DAO, but then now he has control of all the votes in the DAO or whatever. And we haven't seen that. So I think God King route is the route he wants to go, which is fine. But he can't show up once a month and say, you know, gold is poo poo. My chain never goes down. I'm the best founder in the world, because his chain's poo poo right now.
True.
Do you think that's
To
consistent
quote
with
Corey.
Richard Hart though? Like, see, I know you call it pdai, you know, conspiracy, whatever. But like, is it really consistent with Richard Hart that we knew prior to PulseChain's launch? I mean, it's not consistent with him and the SEC kind of win. It's not consistent with him and his hex product that he's developed in the past. I don't know. To me, it's just
For what?
what
What
do
do you
you
mean consistency? Like, what are you?
the
What are you
quality
using
of the
as
quality
consistency?
the quality of his protocol. It's the quality of his work. What we're
Well,
seeing now, to me, it's
so
kind of, in my view, it's just
if you take a step back and you understand where Richard was before Hex, you'd understand that he was not a trusted individual per se, but that he started to garnish quite a bit of attention because of YouTube. And I think that in a world that we had of ICOs and other things, you needed a way to try to give yourself credibility. So to do a DeFi protocol where there's no ownership, there's no like access control to any of the functions in the contract, is a great way to say like, hey, look, my hands are off the wheels. Now, obviously, if you have supply control, everyone's aware of that. But they're like, hey, look, you guys can all watch the wallets; they're never going to sell. So we could, okay, we give him props for that. But ultimately, he had the greatest amount of control you can have over an ERC20 token. Like if you can't mint a token, and the only thing you can do is inflate the token by staking it, and then you control all of the supply, then you effectively have infinite mintability.
because what I'm saying. Like, he's created this chain that's poor quality, quote unquote, right? But he's hired the best lawyers in the world. That's where I'm picking up the inconsistency. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's hired quote unquote Fiverr developers,
Right.
right?
So,
But then he's hired the best lawyers in the world and then successfully beat the SEC.
yeah. So, I mean, if I was a drug lord and I made billions of dollars, and then all of a sudden I get some kind of federal charge
Yeah,
or
it depends
whatever,
on
you
where.
know.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, that's kind of the skeptical, pessimistic way to
Well,
look at it.
does
To be
a
honest,
lawyer work? Does a lawyer work for money, or does he work for morals and ethics? You know, I think lawyers work for money, and they'll always defend or protect whoever is paying them the most. I think that's the simple answer there.
well, what about the inconsistency with Brett picking up that Apple security issue? Right, that
Yeah,
was
Brett,
pretty deep, and then misses the top protocols on PulseChain. I mean, come on, you know, that's the discrepancy I'm talking about.
well, if you want discrepancies, you would understand that Brett, who's, you know, I don't know, say he's a nerd. He's a family guy and he's a nerd.
Yeah,
He's very public. He's posted his full name several times. You can look at him,
I
pictures
found
of
him on
him and his
LinkedIn.
whole. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can find pictures that he's posted. You can find his wife's Instagram, bro. Like
yeah.
literally, you can find out this guy's entire life. They posted his full name in the Apple thing. This
Yeah.
Brett's a guy who's passionate about technology, and I think Richard paid him really well. I think Richard pays him really well for updates. I'll say that. And I don't think there's more to it than that, though. I guess like
But what you wouldn't think that Brett would be like, hang on, you're forking this entire system state with all these protocols, right? What about Pecan? What about what about Aave? What about Maker? They can have quite the vulnerability on your new fork. Should we
Right.
take a look at that? You don't think that conversation came up during
Yeah,
the
it did.
development?
It did. I can prove it to you.
Well, why would they leave it as
They
is
didn't.
then? Why would
I can prove. I can send you. I can pin to the top right now the exact
Mhm.
transactions that the fixer bot went in and drained all of the lending protocols.
Yeah. But like the draining of which, do you think Brett would be like, yeah, all we got to do is just implement the AMM fixerbot and then we're good to go?
Yeah.
You don't
So
think they would have spotted all these other issues though?
yeah, Michael, I this is where I'm trying to explain though is that if you understand how these things worked, the fixer bot directly went in and drained all of the lending protocols. However, it did not go in and drain the protocols and then take over hostile control of those protocols.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah, of course.
so
But
what
like,
it
why
did,
wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do that?
Because all
Like,
he
as
was
in, how
worried
couldn't they
about,
see it?
because Michael, the only way that those things could ever have become a vulnerability is as if people were silly enough to assign value to them.
But
So
that's what the airdrop was, the world's largest free airdrop. Of course, people
yes,
were going to assign value to
yes,
it.
no. But when I say assign value to it, I mean we're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of multiples from an exploited protocol, provably exploited protocol. So if I show you something like wrapped stake ETH right now, I can show you that it is actively exploited. I can show you that every single block on Pulsechain since its inception, someone mints 23 wrapped staked ETH, every single block for 23 Pulse. And yet I still see people buy thousands of dollars of it. And every 100 days, you can go measure this on is when the chain launched, there was a lending protocol. There were several lending protocols that were forgotten from the Fixer bot. Because I had a friend directly make 50 million hex when Pulsechain launched off of a lending protocol that was missed, that he alerted Richard to. He literally wrote Richard directly, told him, and Richard, like, whatever, just waved him off. So I just, like, Richard's, if you look at the original transactions on the Fixer bot, if you go to the main deployer for Pulsex, you go find that wallet, you go to the wallet that funded it, and then see where it sent 6 trillion, it minted 6 trillion Pulse to a wallet. That wallet is the Fixer bot. That wallet ran code to drain all of the different maker protocol, all the different DAO protocols, but it did not take control of them. So as soon as that Fixer bot sent all that voting control token out into the different liquidity pools to fix the ratio, it now gave voting power to whoever accumulated that supply early on. And that's exactly what happened and what we saw.
Wait, so what does that mean for that Fixer bot? That those people have voting power on Pulsechain? Or are you talking about something totally, like, what does that mean?
No, I'm just saying all of the lending protocols that have been exploited has been the result of when the Fixer bot went in and basically drained all the liquidity pools on Uniswap, it sold all of the liquidity pools back into Pulsex, which introduced all of the DAO voting tokens to the world that otherwise wouldn't have been introduced, which gave
Like
people
like PComp, for example.
Oh, the Pulsechain copies of the Ethereum.
Yeah, like PComp, Maker,
Yeah.
Aave.
Oh, so they got all that shit real early, real quick.
I
You
have
can't
no
shut off
faith in any
Pulsechain.
of it.
You can't shut off
I think
Pulsechain.
Pulsechain will go quicker.
Yes, you can. Validators don't
But I
have to
think
validate.
Pulsechain will die at some
Okay,
point. To
all
be
right.
honest. I think the chain will perish. I do.
I think
fully
the
believe
worst
that.
Why are
case,
we
like
here?
absolute worst case, is Pulsechain during the next bull run, he puts the SAC fund in and we see a pump and dump.
Right.
I think
Okay,
that's the worst
that's
case.
okay. You know what? I think fundamentally, subconsciously, we're all here for that reason, that we all believe at some point that Richard Hart is going to pump our bags and make us all millionaires.
Yeah,
But
but
I
he
think
doesn't have enough money to do that. That's the problem, because his fundamental tokenomics was skewed from the very beginning, and that's why we're in the situation we are where we are now.
I just want to say
thank you, Richard Hart and his team.
he can only make like 120 of us millionaires now.
God,
They're in the space.
Bro, we're all
64.
billionaires.
wait, that makes no with
We can make
$400 million
It's a
double
matter
dollars.
of units. It's how many units. We're all billionaires, bro.
Royson, it's much less than you think. It's not 400 anymore.
Oh, yeah, right. It's like down bad.
Logo, I love how
good.
genuine you are about your
I keep it real, man. You got
value
to.
on chain.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to keep it real, bro. I'm not some hot shot.
There's
I'm
guys
not,
up
Yeah,
some
here
but
big
who
spender. I'm not some big spender. I'm the everyman. I'm the average dude. I'm just some dude who saw Richard Hart on these red pill streams, and I was like, this guy's a genius. Hex is at
There's
50
dudes
cents.
up-
It's going to
bro,
like $500
Logo.
in my lifetime. I got. What am I? Why am I not buying this?
There's dudes up here who round trip multi 7 figures multiple times.
Yeah, no, it's insane. It's humbling. It's a privilege. It's a
Gary was
ride to
probably
be
8.
with you guys. Like every single one of you, I consider a brother at some spiritual level, just a kindred spirit in this player hater game of life, dude.
So when did Richard kind of go dormant? Was it around December of 24? When did he kind of like check out?
Wasn't it the Interpol charges and the SEC on his ass? I thought that was whenever that occurred, right?
dude, he's been checked out his
SEC
whole
was
life.
first.
Giga, what do you think PulseChain is? That's kind of an interesting question because I think PulseChain is a great blockchain. Like, what would it be other than that?
A rug,
Well, there's a lot.
Ponzi,
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance
putting
here
money
that
in
I don't
Richard's
really want to get
pockets and
into.
others.
But I
Is
would say
PulseChain in a
that
way a nation state and Richard Hart is our fucking king or something? Is it
I
like
would say I want Richard to tell me what PulseChain is, and then I would respond.
well,
to
dude, he's
that.
just gonna be like, well, you're just too stupid to understand. What do you mean?
It was the
You
world's
don't get
biggest
it.
airdrop.
You're just so
It's
low
the world's
IQ.
biggest airdrop.
Because Richard Hart, his debate tactic isn't always like objective. It's kind of like he's kind of like tries to shit on you intellectually, but without action. I don't know. He's like a social bully kind
without
of.
actually.
Yes,
He's so self-believing. He's got so much
hold on.
self-belief. He doesn't have the lens to see anybody's argument as valid or objective in any way because he's so objectively correct in his own eyes. And who wouldn't think you are when you're like a billionaire, bro?
Yeah,
Oh,
not
yeah,
a
good for
billionaire
him.
anymore.
Oh,
But
well, there you go.
but I would say that I think that there's a reason why we don't see him public, you know. Fair. And I think that's the reason. It's a lot hard to be right when you've been wrong for so long. And the world typically is going to continue to move in that direction. So the longer you continue to be wrong, the more likely you are to continue to be wrong. That's the sad reality of it.
He's just snowballing. He's just doubling down. He's just like, he's so delusional.
Well, you know, the ultimate like kind of cope or like kind of get out of jail card that he plays now, and I've heard other people playing it for him, is they're like, well, because I can quote Richard on, you know, fucking 4 dozen different things about how he was wrong. I've listened to every single thing he's ever said.
But is PulseChain
It's a
wrong
one-on-one.
in theory? Is PulseChain fundamentally wrong? Would you recommend somebody get into PulseChain today? Drop a mill.
Well, there's not really a good way to prove that unless we go to pulsechain.com and see what PulseChain is supposed to be. Faster, smarter, energy efficient crypto network, decentralized and censorship resistant, primed for growth. Take control of your finances for your future.
Do you think that's what Richard Hart would say PulseChain is? Do you think he would believe that?
I think he believes it, but I think it's objectively wrong.
That
Right.
objectively wrong. That is quite the absolute statement.
Yeah, it's a complete. It's just not true in any way. We're not even remotely close to anything that resembles.
That's all I tell people. That's unironically all I tell people why I'm in PulseChain is that it's decentralized finance and that like I'm just breaking free of the system and the dollar's going down. PulseChain is just inevitably going to go up.
Yeah, but not really, because your decentralized situation is dependent upon one situation, which is one step away from failure. And that even him himself, he is him, admitted, and doesn't bridge accordingly to that belief, which is said
Right.
by you, sir. And
true.
And regarding his actions, it proves it. I mean, come on. Everybody thought he's going to do something, and he's doing nothing and losing everything. I don't get it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's you know, it's a piece of blockchain or anything. And I don't think
No.
I
I do have questions about that, Giga,
but
personally, because
yeah.
RPCs, the transaction speeds, look.
Right.
I get problems with that. And
I know. Security. The last time we tried to talk about technically, I knew maybe a tenth of what I know now. Probably a 50.
Yeah, and now hopefully you feel better about what I was trying to say earlier.
But what I'm saying is from a technical perspective, I can answer any of this comfortably.
If you could put this in like Eli 5 or layman's terms, what you guys are discussing, what would you say in like 30 seconds?
It's a little bit private conversation about the history of what I've said before, what he said before, what we've discussed about the speed and the things and whatever technically.
What do you mean, like transaction rates, hash rates? What do you mean?
Doesn't matter.
Why would that be
signing
suspect?
a transaction? Just sign a transaction on PulseChain. How long does it take?
So
Very
do you want to
simple.
know a very in-depth? I'll try to make it as little technical as possible, but the actual reality of what's occurring on PulseChain right now. So this is the bad, right? Most everyone uses the main RPC, which is rpc.pulsechain.com. It's hosted on a Hetzner server in Germany. Now, that RPC is using a very dated version of Aragon. That very dated version of Aragon, basically what happens is you send your transaction to that node. Your transaction goes all the way to that server in Germany. And then that server in Germany, think of your node like a mesh, like a spider web. So that transaction hits that German server, and then it's going to start branching out to other nodes that are randomly basically peered to it. Now, the validator, that the proposer that has its block actually submitted to the chain, is randomly selected. So the proposer, the validator who's operating on whatever node, because you can assign any number of validators to a node, can now has to wait for that information to reach its node. The problem right now with the main RPC is that since it's a dated Aragon version, it randomly picks only 10 other nodes to branch its transaction sheet out from. So when it gets a transaction, it's basically sending it out to 10 other nodes. And then those other nodes are then sending that data out to other nodes. The problem with it is that there's a huge delay currently that's occurring. And
Currently,
so
since the freaking
no,
come
because it
on
wasn't
now.
it wasn't no, it wasn't like this.
Don't
It
just
wasn't
say
like this before.
currently. It's like a small blip in the bubble, dude. No, this shit's been going on
So it
for a
hasn't been
long
consistently,
time,
it's
dude.
been
And the
recently,
rest
or it
of these
has been the whole
guys are
time.
not stepping up to
worsened.
say I got slow added
It's
transactions.
worsened recently because of the way the validation set up.
Well,
So
why would it have worsened with like an update or what? Like,
for whatever reason, the peers, the number of people connected to the number of nodes that are peered up to the main node is about 1,500. Yeah, I think by default peers is set to like 20 or something on Geth. But regardless, so basically only 10 of those 1,500 nodes are getting the transaction data being sent to it at a time. And then you have to hope.
why would that be the case?
Because that's the way Aragon, this older version of Aragon
That's
works.
the structure of the.
It's the
That's the
same. It's
structure
the
of the
same
network.
user.
That's the structure of the chain. He's explaining.
It's old Aragon code. So it's the old code worked this way. There's actually a nickname for it. You guys can probably go grok or search it and look this up. I don't remember what it's called, but people actually had a nickname for this version of Aragon for being notoriously slow because of this issue. So what's happening is all of your transactions are making it to the node instantly. They're being sent into the mempool. The problem is that the proposing the node that's tied to the validator that's proposing whatever blocks that's going to win in a given time is seeing that transaction way later. So it's sitting in the mempool basically in a set of nodes that it can't reach the validating nodes quickly. It takes a long time because there's basically like a timer that takes over that pushes more transactions out. So then what ends up happening is all of that backlog of mempool data from the main RPC is then finally hitting a node that's actually proposing a block. And then what's happened is it's getting backed up because now there's 1,000 transactions in that main RPC that were trying to get to a validator that now are all getting to a validator at once. So it has this oscillating effect where you'll get these backed up transactions for like 10 minutes from the main RPC, and then they'll all push through at once and the gas will skyrocket on that block, and then your transaction will fail. And then you have to wait for the next block that, that gets basically is able to push your transaction through.
I like
with
that
a lower
oscillator effect description because sometimes you can get them through quick and you can go fast and things do work, but you got to catch that.
I'm going to just do
gotta
a
catch that
shill.
oscillation. Isn't crazy.
I don't get anything out of it other than I guess technically if I'm going to mev view, I can mev view quicker. My RPC is the most well peered up group of RPCs. So there's several of them that are all tied together. So if you use my RPC, you'll never have this. Your transaction will be every block. But
All right.
yeah, this
when
is why
I'm
the
gonna
main
run
RPC
one
is
up, I'll reach out to you.
That's really fascinating. I mean, that's crazy.
So Man, this is a lot of alpha, but I'll say it because I still don't think people are quite capable. There's a thing called co-location. So you can run your node in a data center that is in the same data center as someone else's node. Now, typically your latency between nodes can be anywhere from like 5 milliseconds to like, 250 milliseconds. Now, if that's in the same country, usually. Now, if you're in the same data center as someone else's node, so if Royson is running a node, Royson node at, Florida data center, and his node runs 50% of all of the validators on chain or something, let's say. So 50% of all the blocks that get proposed, Royson's validators are proposing. If I open a validator, a node in that Florida data center, my communication time to his node becomes fractions of a millisecond. So now my node can talk to his node instantly.
Yeah, but my problem is I'm running
Nanosecond.
one in Tokyo or whatever,
Wow.
Germany or Munich.
What's the difference between a node and a validator?
So a node is a receipt. A node is saying, this is a snapshot of everything that's happened. A validator is saying, here's a bunch of transactions that are being proposed to happen. So the node is just checking history. The proposers are proposing new blocks, and then the blocks that win are being backchecked against the data on the nodes. So you can't propose a block without having the node, the history,
the full data.
Otherwise, you're breaking the chain, right?
Plus the mempool.
Well, the mempool is the active.
Yeah, that's what's about to be signed, right?
That's what's proposed. Yeah. So, and I'm not super technical here, but what you can do, security. I'll say this is that there is a huge amount of validation occurring in the United States now. And everyone uses an RPC now that's in Germany. So the average user is sending a transaction all the way to a German node. And then that German node has to be hopefully peered up to the node that's in Florida or the node that's in Connecticut, that's with the main actual proposers on PulseChain, the majority of proposers. And then as long as they're peered, then they'll see each other's transactions more quickly than not. However, like I said, with the old version of Aragon, it's only transmitting that so many, it's like batched. So it can be slower. So what you can do is you can spin up, I mean, this is really like, I know no normal person is doing this, but like you can get multiple servers, right? So get a server in America, get a server in Germany, get a server in Hong Kong,
Singapore, whatever.
You can directly peer to your other nodes. So then now if, some kid in China, is using, or no, I should say like, yeah, whatever it is. If some kid in China is using, your
PLSX.fund.
It's going to hit all of your nodes quicker than it otherwise would.
Yeah, and he sends it. Yeah, okay, so, through your network, specifically aligned.
Yeah. So like think of it as like your bundle of nodes all talk to each other. And then if your bundle of nodes are all just happen to be closest to the majority of proposed blocks, then your transactions are just basically arriving before other people. So in a chain without index ordering, like flash bots, like proper MEV, it all comes down to just gas. So then if it comes down to just gas, that means me and you can pay the exact same amount of gas in a 10-second block. And now we're placing, in the exact same index as one another. And then it just becomes an issue of whoever got there first. So if I send my transaction with the exact same gas as you, the exact same tip as you, and
yeah, for sure. If I send it from Cheyenne to Georgia and you're sending it from Singapore to freaking
right, and
Florida,
I get there first, and now my transaction.
Good luck,
first.
baby.
Right, yeah, or whatever it is, yeah. So I didn't mean for this to get too,
no. No, no,
And
that's good.
when you validate, you put up what 21 million
32.
pulse. How much?
32.
32 million, and you get a
Right.
percentage of like all the the gas fees on like the network or something though.
No, you get the tip and the block that you propose and win.
Are you fighting with other validators for tips? Is that what you guys are kind of talking about by setting up all these nodes?
You're not fighting. It's more like you're all saying, hey, this is what people are trying to do. This is my proposal. This is my block proposal. And then whatever those people decided to tip you is what you're given, but you can't just like pick if you're going to be the winner of a block, you know.
This is sort of
Wow. That's interesting.
a fundamental discussion about how the things work. I don't even validate, but I know sort of how the things are supposed to go and whatnot, though. So
the
at that level,
right.
you know,
I've always wanted
it's a
to
good
validate.
conversation.
I've always wanted to 32 million pulso. I mean, I could get 32 million pulso at these prices. I can just accumulate
Yeah,
BCA
super
and
cheap.
just
Yeah,
hold.
like it's like what,
Right.
$15 or 20 or something.
Yeah, but
or,
the
I
reality
don't know.
is with that one
Because
node,
Giga, I want to believe in Richard Hart, Giga. I want to believe in Richard Hart and his technology. What you're saying is better, more efficient, it's
But it's not
faster,
his
right?
technology.
I
He
mean, it's
copied
DeFi.
Vitalik. He copied what Charles and them. He copied what those guys, the founders of Ethereum, did. And in the beginning, he wanted
But
to
he just
copy
did it better. He just did
BSC
it
or
better than
whatever,
them, right?
BNB. It was more or less like a Solana early version. Like, what? And then he changed it halfway through the freaking thing. Maybe you're just a little bit new to that history, but
He changed it halfway through.
yeah, during the test phase, yeah, there was all kinds of. He proposed he was going to do the things. There were 21 validators, be a C fork or whatever, blah blah blah,
right?
and then it changed. Boom.
What would
Yeah.
that have done had that been the case? What do you mean? You have this many validators,
What
and
do you
now
mean?
you have a
What had it
better.
was too late. The sack was already more or less done or finishing in the finishing stages. You know,
Well, you got
I
to
don't know.
remember that Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake.
Yeah, yep,
After the sacrifice too. So
yeah, for sure. Yep.
So what did that do to
pivoted
PulseChain? Did that how did that affect PulseChain?
Well, we were originally forking BSC code, and then I think we pivoted to different. I don't know the technical history of that very well.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
BNB. It was like an earlier version of freaking Solana because between BSC, which is a fork of ETH, also, but
Right.
BNB, which BSC, there's like two different coins when you're frown over there on freaking what's this guy's name? CZ Land over there. So you had to have
BSC is just the EVM.
Yeah,
It's
but
just the
BSC is
stake.
the EVM version, but BNB or whatever was the original. Like, and to me, that's kind of a fork of Solana. Like Solana forked that and then rolled out, but no, hardly anybody would talk about that unless they were there to witness. But
Yeah, I don't know much about the BNB BSC history.
Yeah, it's the same. They got like the same more or less validator node content. It's like a max out, and then you.
I think just to bring it back a little bit is because what originally brought us here was that there is absolutely issues right now with the main RPC for PulseChain. I would probably advise you to use one of the other providers. If it's not mine, use Gamma's or use, I think Public Nodes even has one. They probably rate limit it to some degree. So I caught another thing the other day. I posted about it briefly, but probably not a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. So I guess I'll just explain it since we're on this kind of technical stuff, which is that the bridge has 9 relayers effectively. So what these are is you can think of them as bots that watch Ethereum and that watch PulseChain that can verify that something received, that the bridge basically received coins on one side, and then that it can verify that and release coins on the other side for this.
These
for
are
whoever's
more or
doing the
less
transaction.
Oracle situations, right? Like,
yeah, I think calling them a
kind of
relayer is
similar,
probably the
yeah.
best. So there's 9 of them. I think you only need 5 in order to validate a transaction on the bridge. So these things have to spend a lot of gas. in order to, they have to spend a lot of their own pulse in order to validate these transactions. And what we've seen in the past is even the failing ones, since it's only 5 out of 9, you would see all 9 would do their confirmation. I'm not exactly sure the technical of exactly technically how that happens, but they would all confirm that a transaction was there.
Yeah, it's basically Oracle services.
So
That's where I'm trying
yeah,
to say about the Oracle
so
situation, because you have to have one eye off the other chain and one chain off the
right,
other eye. You have
but
the two eyes.
that's
It's crazy.
right.
Yep.
So the issue is that 4 out of those 5 were sending a transaction that was reverting every time because it already had the proper amount of validation in order to confirm a transaction on the bridge. So you had 4 scripts, 4 bots every single time that were basically failing a full gas transaction, full of data. Well, just recently, in the past 2 weeks, so 2 weeks ago, one of the bridge relayers started replacing its transaction with 0 cents. So that way it's sending 0 to itself instead of all of the confirmation data whenever it's guaranteed to lose a block or to lose a validation.
Well, it's
So
probably trying to catch up on the data, or I don't know.
So now a second one started doing it yesterday afternoon. So someone is upgrading the scripts that are validating the transactions across the bridge actively right now.
One by one across.
How would that be the case? Like, is that a developer? Is that Richard Hart? Is that somebody who
Well, I
figured
assume
that
it's
out a way to
Richard,
do that?
right? Because now, although there is one admin key that can turn off the bridge right now, it can literally turn the bridge into a drain contract if it wanted to. There's that key can also control how many validators and who are validators for the bridge.